The objects in our lives can be reservoirs for memories. Take, for instance, this item behind me. This, of course, is not the original item, but it's an exact duplicate of the one that I did have. And it brings me back to another time in 1966 when I was around 7 years old. It was very embarrassing, but I had a wart on my nose. It was right here on my nostril. And my mom brought me into the doctor. And of course they burned off warts in the office most of the time, but because of where it was on my face in a kind of a delicate position, it was decided that I would have to go to the hospital to get this wart burned off. It was very scary for me to go to the hospital, of course, at that age, and it's still scary for me to go to the hospital. And in those days, they used to knock you out with ether. And so they put this mask on my face, and the doctor had me count backwards from 100, and I didn't get very far. And I was out. And it kind of reminds me of Curious George when he had to go to the hospital, and he gets into that bottle of ether. But anyway, when I woke up, I was feeling really sick, and I had the dry heaves. And a nice thing that my mother did, though, they had a little store in the hospital. And even though it wasn't my birthday and it wasn't Christmas, she brought me downstairs and let me pick out some items from the hospital store. And what I wanted, around that time, it was, of course, Batmania had struck because of the TV show from the 60s. And one of the things that I wanted was this Batman Flexitoy. It's kind of like a Gumby. You can bend its arms and legs and all that. And of course mine eventually lost its cape, and there were wires sticking out of his feet and his hands, so it got kind of beat up. I also got a couple other things at that time, and one of which was a Batman, again Batman. It was a Batman and a parachute, so a little Batman figure, and you wrap the parachute around it, throw it up, and he comes down. I remember I must have got that stuck in a tree pretty early on, and it was never recovered. But I remember that winter seeing that bat after the leaves had all come down and the snow, the trees were bare, and I could see that Batman hanging up there in that tree. That's a memory that kind of sticks with me. And I got one other third item in this hospital store, and that was a Batman gun. Those kind, remember those kind of guns that they had? They had little propeller type things, and you shoot them and it flies off like that. I've got one here, I'll show you. Hang on a second. This, of course, is no Batman gun, but it gives you an example of what that kind of gun. And I see that they call this a flying saucer gun, you know, which is probably a good name with it. Has 3 flying tops in it. This is, yeah, that's kind of nice. For you toy archivists, I'll try to give you a close-up of the packaging here, which it's not really very great packaging, but as you can see, it's washable and it's non-toxic. I'm not sure how you would wash that. Take his cape off and put it in the washer and dryer, I don't know. Or maybe they just mean you can scrub the grime and dirt off his rubber body or what. I don't know. And you see the little illustrations here, which aren't great either. Wham! And a pow! And a crack! And there it is, the Flexitoy. You can see in this close-up of the lower left-hand corner that it was made by Wonder Toys, and it was made in Hudson, Wisconsin. I'm sure our friend Gary would be very pleased and proud to know that. You know, as long as we're talking about Batman, I might as well show you a couple other Batman items from the toy room. This is a copy of Life magazine from March 11th, 1966, and of course that's Adam West on the cover as Batman. And this particular one is a subscription copy from Cincinnati, Ohio. Of course, it's fun to look at the ads inside too. Here's an ad for Swanson's TV dinner. Here, looks delicious, doesn't it? This, of course, is a Batman trash can that my brother Tom and I had in our room growing up, and I thought it was kind of odd because the coloring on Batman's costume doesn't look quite right. You know, that I don't know what color that is, but that's not the color Batman was. This is the other side of the trash can. I also have some Batman bubblegum cards from the 1960s, and we used to have some of these up at the lake cabin, and I was always fascinated by the illustrations. A lot of them, the paintings were done by Norm Saunders, the guy that did Mars Attacks. And on the back of them, they'd have a little story, a little Batman story there. Some of them were puzzle pieces. When you got enough of the cards, you could put together some image, but they're kind of neat. This is the actual Batman game that Tom and I had when we were kids, and it's a little beat up and mildewed. It was made by Milton Bradley. Ages, what are the ages? 8 to 15. But you can play it if you're older too. I'll show you what the board looks like here. There's an image of Batman in these squares, and of course I don't remember how to play this game at all. And there's some little men figures here, and there's a Batmobile piece there, and there's all these little squares that you use this card here and match up your temporary captives. And like I say, I don't remember how to play it, but it looks a little neat. It's kind of cool. I also have a Batman color form set. This particular one I picked up is from the 1970s, but it's identical in design to the one that my brother Tom and I had in the 1960s. We'll take a closer look at this in another installment of the Toy Room. The final item I'm going to show you is this Batman paperback, and we had one like this up at the lake cabin. And after the weekend was over, I took it along with me in the car for the long two and a half hour car ride back home from the lake. And as I was reading it on the way, on the ride, my brother Dave, he, for whatever reason, he took it and he threw it out the car window, and that was gone. That's just the kind of brother he was. But many, many years later, I was happy to find this same paperback at an antique show, and of course I bought it, and so now I have it again. And if you look inside, you can see it's just black and white reprints out of a comic book. But it's really nice to have it again. I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you learned a lesson. Don't get a wart on your nose. You might have to go to the hospital. I still got my scar here. But you know, the good thing is, you might get a few toys. Don't take it.